Hi, this is Bill White, and
Hi, Brenna.
we are out for a walk, as we often do, doing a little thinking and planning, and just want to welcome you to Small Church, Big Table, and get a little orientation to this whole idea of why we sometimes call Christians.
Okay, so the deal is, we start with ourselves. So let me tell you a little story. It was like 5-6 years ago now, and I was still very much in my process of becoming a pastor. And part of that process for a lot of pastors, especially in denominational type churches, is that you actually go through a psychological profile. Do all sorts of tests and assessments. And so I had finished doing all the paperwork and stuff, and I was having my big meeting with the psychologist to go over the results. And so as we're having this conversation, he says to me, "Hey, Brenna, the thing is, you test in so many ways, like your traditional lead pastor type, except the majority of lead pastors lean towards narcissism, this sort of like puffing up of the self, right?" And actually, side note, but this psychologist is now very well known for writing in the church about narcissism in the church. Okay, so he says, you're like a lead pastor, except where most lead pastors tend towards narcissism, you go in completely the opposite direction, and you lean towards self-sabotage. Okay, well that didn't sound like a good thing, right? Like something that may hold me back, right? I'm not contributing my full gifts to the church. I'm not being my full self. So it turned out that I was going on a retreat, like within the next 24 hours, great timing. So 24 hours later, I find myself walking in the woods and really just having this very honest conversation with God. Like, why is it that I self-sabotage? I knew it to be true, when I preached, just in all sorts of situations, I could feel myself holding back and just really not living into everything that I could. So I'm having this raw conversation with God. Okay, crossing the street, let's make sure we don't die.
Good.
Okay, raw conversation with God. Why do I self-sabotage? And the answer that just comes out of me is, God, I don't want to.
You said that to God?
I said that to God. God, I don't want to be. Right? And I'm actually not someone who necessarily cusses a whole lot, right? Like that's not my thing. I don't mind people who do, but I just don't a lot, right? But this was the honest conversation. I had had so many experiences with toxic leaders in the church, so many experiences where it just felt to me like ego was controlling situations, and I just didn't want that. I was so scared of it. And so I keep talking with God a little bit more, and I end up in this place where what I sensed God speaking to me is, what if you risk it? What if you go ahead and you let yourself be powerful? You bring all those gifts to the table, and if you end up being an asshole at times, we'll deal with it. Right? Like we'll deal with it. You'll get to say sorry. You'll get to see those broken places instead of just hiding them away, and we can heal, right? Like, what if you risk it?
Just so you know, that's typically not what God says to me about me being because it's sort of more my natural demeanor. But I'm glad that that's what God said to you.
God speaks in different ways to different people, but this idea that we can hold power differently, whether we naturally tend toward them or we're just scared of it. Like, what if we can actually learn to hold power differently? That's really the focus of what we're trying to do, what we're trying to talk about.
So that was a great story. Thank you, Brenna Rubio. So good. So in this webinar coming up, just a couple of things to orient you so you know what to expect. It'll be interactive. We'll do some crowdsourcing of ideas. We'll have facilitated breakout groups so everyone gets to share a little bit about where they're at and what their journey's looking like in this area. And then we'll do some coaching out of those small groups in terms of a couple situations that came up, and we'll talk through what that looks like. So come ready to talk and ready to jump in. It'll also be a safe space, or we're going to try to make it a safe space. We'll hold things in confidence. We'll sit in tension. We will not fix people, and we'll ask others not to fix people. The idea is to create space for each of us to take another step on our journey.
All right, so the invitation for you right now, if it feels like something that might be life-giving for you, we just want to invite you to check it out. You know, maybe you haven't had a chance to download our guide yet, Lead Without Being. It's on our website, and you know, maybe that's your next step. Maybe you'd actually like to join us for a webinar where we can talk about these things more. Maybe you just need to have your own little conversation with God about where these dynamics are playing in your life and what it looks like to hold power in a healthy and loving way. We don't know what it is for you, but we just want to wish you all the best on the journey.
Bye.
Bye.